أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة أيحسب الإنسان أن لن نجمع عظامه بلى قادرين على أن نسوي بنانه بل يريد الإنسان ليفجر أمامه يسأل أيان يوم القيامة فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر يقول الإنسان يومئذ أين المفر كلا لا وزر إلى ربك يومئذ المستقر ينبأ الإنسان يومئذ بما قدم وأخر رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي فالحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ثم أما بعد. Once again guys, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just to give you some perspective on what we're trying to do today. Last few sessions I've talked about Iman, faith, and faith in Allah in particular. And all the passages that I chose, the central subject was actually still faith in Allah. But in the introductory sessions, in the first session, or in the first section of this series, I talked to you guys about how our faith is broken up basically into three. So faith in Allah, faith in the afterlife, and faith in the message. You remember that? Allah, afterlife, and message. And each of these are pretty big categories, and we've kind of done at least a small survey of faith in Allah. We did a little bit of that. And the Quran talks pretty comprehensively about faith in the afterlife. There's lots and lots of things to talk about here. The Quran is actually unique in many ways when it talks about the afterlife. One of the ways in which it is unique is that Allah talks in more detail, in more descriptive detail about what is going to happen after we die than any other text, any other sacred text that people believe in. Right? So we have a pretty elaborate description of what's going to happen in heaven and in hell, and even on Judgment Day before heaven and hell. We have a pretty detailed, picturesque, visual kind of description. And there's a lot of wisdom behind that. There's a lot of benefits to having a visual description of these places. Even though with all of the visualizations that are offered, at the end of the day, it is beyond imagination. At the end of the day, it's just kind of a glimpse of what's going to happen, and what's really going to happen is even above and beyond, what these words are able to describe for us at the moment, because our understanding of words is based on what we've seen. Like if the Quran talks about a tree, then we only think of a tree from this world. We can't really think of a tree from another world. And the Akhirah is a different world. It's a different reality. It's a reality of the unseen. So whether it's a tree in heaven or a tree in hell, which both of which are talked about, we really don't know at the end of the day how that's going to look. Right? Similarly, Allah talks about houses and rivers, and sometimes rivers that are almost impossible for us to visualize, like rivers made of milk and rivers made of honey and rivers made of wine that taste good. And it's interesting, Allah mentioned لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ, wine that tastes good, because apparently wine is an acquired taste. I wouldn't know, but the first time somebody tastes it, they almost want to throw up, and it's like, why would anybody drink this? But the wine of Jannah, Allah offers it as the second you taste it, it tastes actually pretty amazing. لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. And additionally, rivers made of honey, which I mentioned to you before. I mean, currently I can only imagine it as extremely goopy and not really something you'd want to take a swim in, but we don't know what Jannah's like. We just don't know. So the Prophet ﷺ, in order to kind of describe this phenomenon, he would even say, مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ وَمَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ, what no eye has ever seen, what no ear has ever heard, and what no imagination has ever imagined, you can even say. What's never even occurred to the heart of a person. What nobody's ever even imagined. Right? So this is kind of like the description of the afterlife. However, instead of talking about what is described, we need to understand first and foremost of like the concept itself and the importance of the concept of an afterlife itself and the basis for it itself. And then, then you get into the subject. It's kind of like you have to understand the why before you understand the what. Right? A lot of times people focus on the what. What is the afterlife? What is going to happen in the afterlife? But why did Allah create the afterlife? And why should we believe in the afterlife? Why should we even believe in an afterlife? Those are the more fundamental questions. One perspective that was shared about that, there were actually two perspectives, two whys I shared with you already. I'm reviewing them first, and then we're going to get to, because the Quran offers us lots of whys for why the afterlife was created. Because we won't know at the end of the day, it's something Allah did. Allah only knows. So He drops us some hints, right? So one of those hints is actually in the Fatiha, and that first hint was that if Allah Azza wa Jal is just, if Allah is perfect in everything, then we clearly know there are injustices in this world. There's no way around that. As a matter of fact, the Quran acknowledges injustices in this world, and talks about human beings just living a life of labor and toil. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Human beings were created in toil and labor. There's no way around that. There are people who either have physical toil, they physically work really hard and barely get paid enough, like equivalent to the work they did in this life, or people that are wealthy and all of these other things, they have psychological toils, they have mental toils. They have difficulties up here or in their heart, they have depression and all kinds of strange challenges in their life. That's also a kind of kabad. So human beings are going to have some challenge or another in this life, right? So something has to balance that out. Similarly, people get away with some bad things they did in this life. And no court system, and we talked about how there can't really be perfect justice. You remember that conversation? And how Judgment Day is actually a way of Allah Azza wa Jal balancing the equation. Meaning the people who did deserve His justice will get that justice, either for the better or for the worse. That's one of the reasons we have Judgment Day. The second reason that's described is actually embedded inside the meaning of the word Rabb. Is embedded inside the meaning of the word Rabb. The idea here is Rabb, if Allah is an absolute authority. Rabb, I spent a lot of time describing what Rabb means to you. Rabb is an absolute authority, and whenever you have an authority over you, like a boss at a company, or like a government, or whatever it is, any authority obviously is an authority because it asks you to do something. Like if an authority never asks you to do anything, it's not an authority. Right? Anybody who has an authority, like a teacher has authority over you, so he asks you to do homework, or he asks you to do an assignment or prepare for a test. Right? A government has authority, so it asks you to pay taxes. You understand? So an employee has authority, so he asks you to do certain kinds of work. But authority also necessitates that you don't just get told what to do, there is also a follow-up. In other words, your teacher will come up to you and say, hey, did you finish the assignment? Right? And you won't say, hey, don't you trust me? I thought you liked me. Why are you asking me this question? I thought we understand each other. Why would you tell me to do something and then even ask afterwards whether or not I did it? I'm so hurt by this. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Any relationship of authority, your parents can ask you whether you cleaned your room or not, yes or no. They ask you to do something, and there's going to be a questioning and sort of like an interrogation or review of whether or not you did what you were supposed to do. So with every authority comes some kind of responsibility, a follow-up, a questioning. A government at the end of the year says, hey, did you pay your taxes? You don't say, I have a flag on my front porch. I love this. How could you ask me? I can't even believe that you asked me. Well, they kind of have to ask. They kind of have to ask. So human experience, our entire human experience is, important to appreciate. Allah Azza wa Jal gave us in this deen things, aspects of our relationship with Him and our understanding of deen that are actually very much in line with human nature. And in human nature, if you leave the majority of human beings, if the exceptions don't make the rule, the exceptions actually prove the rule. The very few human beings that you will never have to ask them, they'll just do it anyway. Is that the majority of people or the minority of people? The minority. If your parent has children, if a parent has 10 children, and they have asked, do you have a child that if you don't even ask them and they just do it? Is that always going to be 10 out of 10 or 1 out of 10 if that? That's going to be 1 out of 10. In other words, human beings not actually abiding by, okay, well, I think it's a good thing, so I'll just do it anyway. Those are going to be exceptional people. That's awesome.
But that's not the vast majority of human beings. So some people come forward and say, well, why is there going to be a questioning? Why can't I be just good because I'm good? If that was the way human beings operated, you wouldn't have society. If everybody just stopped at a red light because it's just a good thing to do, and you don't really get questioned about it, you don't get a picture taken of yourself, you don't get a fine, you don't get a ticket, you don't get even if a cop pulls you over, he says, that wasn't nice what you did. That was really mean. I could have been hurt. Sorry, I was mean. I won't do it again. If that was the case, what would have happened? Would civilization survive that way? No. No. I mean, that entire idea that you cannot be asked about what you did, and you will not be brought to court for what you did, because you're supposed to be good on your own anyway, is absurd for the vast majority of people. And the fact that it's true for a handful of people isn't enough. It's just not enough. And as a matter of fact, there always have been in history, there have always been people that have said, that have believed, that have been motivated to do good only for the sake of Allah, nothing else. They don't care about akhirah, they don't care about Jannah, they don't care about Jahannam. They just want to do good because it's good. It's good for them. And that's something I talked to you about when we talked about Ayatul Bir, the motivations of doing good. The ayah of goodness. What was the first reason somebody wants to be good? Because Allah made them that way and their belief in Allah. That's it. Allah put some aspects of goodness inside of us, and some people are dominated by that. The good in them is just radiating, and they just do it. Even if they didn't know about the akhirah, they just do it. On that note, before I go on, I've given you two motivations as far as the akhirah. Through examples, I've told you the second one. Allah is the ultimate authority. He created you and me, He put some expectations on you and me. He asked us to live by certain principles of justice, to not hurt the other creation, to fulfill some rights we have towards Him, etc. And so if that's the case, then He has a right to ask. He has a right to ask, what did you do? What did you do with the gifts I endowed you with? What did you do with the fitrah I gave you? Fitrah we talked about before, the ruh, the light. What did you do with that light? Did you take any advantage of it? And by the way, if there was no outside light, remember we talked about if Allah wouldn't give outside light, revelation. Is there still light inside a human being? Which means, are they still responsible? Yeah. Given what limited light you had, at least you should have okay, you couldn't know that there are 5 prayers. Maybe some guy lives at a time when the Prophet ﷺ wasn't even there. No Prophet was there. Right? There was nobody to teach Islam. A guy lived in the middle of the Aborigines jungle or something. Was he also given light? Was he also given a ruh? Sure. But was he able to perfect his light? Because how do you perfect light? You get light on top of light. Nur ala. But he wasn't able to perfect his light. So he had limited light. So Allah might question him based on the limited light that he had. What did you do with the light that you did have? What did you do with that? How were you dealing with people just based on what you had? So there has to be some questioning. If you're given a gift, if you're given a responsibility, then there will be a question. There will be questions asked about it. As a matter of fact, not only for responsibilities, even for gifts. Even for gifts. Those who love you, like your parents, they give you a gift. They buy you new clothes. They get you a toy. They get you a video game. When they get it for you, do they have a right to ask if you're taking care of it? Hey, why is that shirt that I bought you, why is that on the floor? Do they have a right to ask you? Do they have the right to be upset when you're not taking care of what they took so much care to give you and you're not taking care of it? In other words, your ingratitude is something that can be questioned, especially when someone's giving you a lot of gifts. They have a right to ask you, what'd you do with it? Now, the idea here is Allah interrogating us about what He gave us now? No, He's not. Is He asking us whether or not we prayed 5 times or 4 times or 3 times today, whether or not we paid attention, whether we not even cared to make wudu or not, whether or not we lied or cheated or stole or killed or ate riba or, disrespected someone or, spoke ill of someone or... Does He interrogate us about that on a daily basis? No. No. That is one of the concepts of the akhirah, that questioning can begin, which He has a right to do. He certainly has a right to do it. As a matter of fact, every single human being being questioned about what they did is well within the realm of justice. None of this is unfair. This is well within the realm of justice. You've been given certain gifts. Then the final argument, the counter argument that some people offer. There are lots of philosophical discussions. I just want to give you something that sometimes confuses people. Some people say, I didn't ask to be created. I didn't ask to be given a light. I didn't ask to be turned into a human. I didn't ask for this life. So why am I being questioned? I didn't choose my parents. I didn't choose anything. Yeah, you didn't. You don't have that choice. That's, مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَارَةِ. They don't have the choice. You have a choice after you've been created. You don't have the choice to be created. That wasn't your choice because you have a master. He's the ultimate authority. The entire idea of the ultimate authority, a master, is that he will do فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. He will do for whatever he wants, or he will do towards whatever he wants, or do whatever he wants. He'll do whatever he wants. That is his authority. If you have a problem with the fact that you've been created, you have a problem with the fact that you've been created, you still haven't internalized the idea that you have a master who has authority. He doesn't just have creative power. He has authority. He has authority over you. And I'm baffled at people who ask the question, why was I didn't ask to be created. I don't want any of this. I'm baffled at the idea that someone can take the gift of life, this incredible gift, everything you've ever enjoyed in life, or everything you've ever enjoyed rather, is because you're alive. Every pleasure you've ever known is because you're alive. Is because you're alive. And yet you can just dismiss all of it and say, well, there are some problems in my life. And that's why I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this. As a matter of fact, the good that is being done to any human being, the favors that are being done to any human being, the seen favors and the unseen favors, are actually, they far outweigh whatever problems they're having in life. They far outweigh them. The usr is al-usr, and the yusr is always yusr. Inna ma'al usri, you know the ayah? Inna ma'al usri yusran. Wa asbagha alaykum ni'amahu, zahiratan wa batinatan. With the difficulty, he put colossal ease. With every difficulty, he associated it with colossal ease, even more colossal ease. And then he says he unleashed, he just flooded you with his favors, the ones you can see and the ones you can't see. The idea, where did Fatiha begin? You remember? This goes back to where Fatiha began. What was the first thing? Gratitude, right? Appreciation and gratitude. That's where this entire conversation begins. If a person cannot internalize the idea that they're being showered and they're being flooded, they're being overwhelmed with Allah's gifts, then they can ask the question, I didn't ask to be created. It's not like I have anything good going on in my life. Really, how blind? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. How many more favors can you just pretend aren't there? How oblivious do you have to be for the gifts that are being given and given and given and given and given? From outside and from the inside. So, this idea of us standing before Allah, two arguments have thus far been presented. The third interesting argument is going to be presented today. This is actually a pretty scary surah. This is a surah that describes, for the most part, it describes the events of the day of resurrection. This is a surah, among many, there are so many, 2/3 of the Quran is about Iman, and a good chunk of that is about the afterlife. Even Madani Quran, the other third, has a lot of discussions about the afterlife. But I chose this surah, and my teacher also taught me this surah, because he felt that this is actually a pretty good, solid introduction to not only what we believe, but also why human beings should be inclined towards the conviction that there is, in fact, an akhirah, no matter what they do. Now, even if we haven't studied this surah yet, are you guys familiar with the idea of Judgment Day? I'm pretty sure. From whatever little you may have heard, or a lot that you may have read and heard, does it sound like a pleasant or an unpleasant day? It's unpleasant. It's unpleasant. Maybe the equivalent of a terrible, terrible earthquake that you can imagine now, or a horrible tornado or something coming this way, or a flood coming or something like that. Now look, nobody's happy about a tornado coming, or an earthquake coming, or a flood coming, or whatever it is. But if you are given on the news warning about this horrible tornado that is headed your way, it'll be there in 45 minutes, pack your bags and get out of town. What is a reasonable response? What's a reasonable reaction to the news that a terrible event is coming? You could, A, I hate tornadoes. I can't believe, you know what? Forget it. Why would even a tornado come? I don't want to believe this. I can't believe he's doing this. Why would God do this? What did I ever do to deserve a tornado? I quit. Whether you like it or not, whether you complain or not, whether you cry about it or not, whether you're really hurt by it or not, is the tornado still coming? What's a reasonable reaction? Pack and go. Get out of its way. Get out of its way. Look, as far as our conviction is concerned, Allah created the Day of Judgment. Allah created Jannah. And actually, in this conversation, the negative conversation, Allah created Jahannam. Allah created hell. You can cry about it, whine about it, and say, why did he do it? I can't stand that he did it. I don't want it. It's not nice that he did it. It's still there. And it's still coming. It's just coming. You can pretend it's not there. You can pretend it's not coming. And maybe it'll make you feel happy temporarily. Everybody else around you is running. Like, those people, they're so depressed, they're running away. I'm living my happy life. I just want to be happy. I'm going to pretend it's not coming. And even the person who's pretending really hard that it's not coming, deep down in the back of their head, is they still kind of like, It's there. You can't get rid of it. Something is there. You have to really try hard to just get rid of it. It's a reality. One of the reasons Allah describes Judgment Day and hellfire in such graphic detail, such horrible, horrible detail. Oh my God. No other text. Boiling water being poured on people's faces, and skins being torn off, and people being roasted, and people having to drink spoiled blood, and it is terrible. The descriptions of hellfire in the Quran are terrible. I mean, they are horrible, horrible descriptions. The following surah is not suitable for children. I mean, some of that stuff is really rated R. It's rated. If it was on a TV screen or something, you would change the channel. You say, how could this be on TV? It would be like that. The question though is, why do it? Why describe it like that? Well, the thing is, there are nations that came before us that were also given the same warnings that we've been given. Actually, our belief is what was taught about Allah to us was also taught about Allah by Prophet Isa alayhi salam, and Musa alayhi salam, and Nuh alayhi salam, and Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Salih and Shu'aib. They all taught the same thing about Allah. They didn't teach a different message about Allah. As a matter of fact, they also taught the same thing about the afterlife. They didn't preach a different Judgment Day, they preached the same Judgment Day. You will find the conversation about Judgment Day being made from the mouth not only of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the Quran, but you'll find it coming, those words are coming out from the mouth of Musa, Isa, Salih, Shu'aib, Nuh. Everybody's talking about the same Judgment Day. Why is Allah describing the same exact Judgment Day, but from different prophets? Because Allah is letting us know, it's not like He changed what your beliefs are supposed to be over time. You were supposed to, you remember what are the 2 out of 3 things that have been constant? Do you remember? Who could tell me? Morals and beliefs are supposed to be constant. All prophets taught the same morals and the same beliefs. And this is part of belief, isn't it? This is part of belief. They were taught the same thing. Now, what happens over time is Allah starts giving more details, but He never contradicts what was already taught. So the idea of a heaven and a hell have already been taught. But what happened, unfortunately, for other nations? Something terrible happened. Like one of the descriptions of what happened to Bani Israel in the Quran is that their hearts became hard. Pay attention to this part. You'll understand something, inshallah. One of the descriptions is their heart became hard. And one of the ways in which we learn in Islam that the heart becomes soft is when it remembers the afterlife. Not only when you remember Allah, but when you remember the afterlife. You'll find all over the world the Taraweeh prayer being led, and you'll find people when the ayat come of Judgment Day, when the ayat come of Jannah, when the ayat come of meeting with Allah, when the ayat come of the punishments, you'll hear what in the crowd? You'll hear crying in the crowd. You're going to hear crying in the crowd. Why? And it'll happen while Allah is reciting, or people are reciting the ayat about Allah's favors, or when Allah's ayat about Judgment Day and the akhirah are being recited. People are going to be moved. In other words, the idea of the akhirah makes the hearts what? Soft. And one of the accusations against Bani Israel is what? Their hearts had become hard. You will notice something. There's an interesting connection between these two things. They systematically eliminated almost all mention of the afterlife. As a matter of fact, a good number of denominations of Judaism outright denied the existence of the afterlife and said there's only heaven. As a matter of fact, some of them even believed that everybody who's non-Jewish will just die and just cease to exist. And the only people that will be left on the earth are people that follow God's law, meaning the Banu Israel, and that'll be heaven in and of itself when they're just left to their own devices. That's heaven. They developed that idea. In other words, they eliminated the concept altogether. They just eliminated it. What happened for the Christian community over history is a long story, but what happened in modern times is if you turn the TV on and you watch one of those shows that you probably watch but you're not supposed to watch, like back in the day, Simpsons, then the mutation of The Simpsons into Family Guy and South Park and all these other shows. One of the things that are constantly made fun of is God. And one of the other things that's constantly made fun of is heaven and hell. There are entire shows dedicated to people that are in hell. They're just having a heavy metal party or whatever. It's a joke. It's a joke. Like it's just pitchforks and, horns sticking out. And it's all red and stuff. And it's just a rave party. It's a joke. It wasn't something serious anymore. Hell is no longer something serious. I mentioned this to you before. There are movies made about a character going into hell, rescuing someone and coming back out of hell. They do that? Okay. And the entire idea of hellfire being this horrible, horrible place, we've done, and this is actually, where did the ideas of hell in modern film, where do they come from? Where do you think they come from? They come from the biblical narrative. They come from the Bible. They're mutations of what they learned in the Bible. They've twisted those beliefs into something entertaining. It was a mercy and a gift of Allah that He gave us a description of hellfire. 1400 years it's been. 1400 years. Do Muslims joke around about hellfire? No. You don't find a Muslim manufacturer, unless they don't know what they're writing, come up with a jacket with a flaming skull that says Highway to Hell. You don't find it. Is this found in the Christian community? Oh yeah, no big deal. The tornado, the storm is something serious, and it has maintained its seriousness for 1400 years. The nations that came before us, their beliefs in Allah deteriorated, and their beliefs in the akhirah and the seriousness of what is coming also deteriorated. And whether or not you take that warning seriously, is it still coming? Isn't it a gift of Allah that you still, after 1400 years, did not lose sight of how serious it is? Is that a gift or is that a curse? And yet somebody reads the descriptions of the Quran, of people's faces being boiled, or people burning in the hellfire, and says, why? The question why is long gone. The question why, that question is, the answer to that's already been told since the first prophets. Because this is not something new. The only thing now is, at least this knowledge has been preserved. This knowledge has been preserved. The Christian prides himself that our book does not have the description of hell that you people have. Actually, it did. You guys eliminate quite a few things. It did. And it's not something to be proud of. To forget a teaching that Allah gave. I would rather know now than be in it. I would rather know now and get this description and be freaked out and then get my act together than actually show up there. Now this, before we go any further, the idea that Allah will somehow be unfair, or Allah is out to punish. Allah is out to punish. These are people's own conceptions. People think that Allah is out to punish them. And this is one of Shaitan's greatest tricks. Look at how the Quran describes punishment. See what he wants to do to you? What kind of God is this that wants to punish you like this? Why would he want to do this? What have you ever done to him? that He should do this to you. And He wants to fill your head with these ideas. That Allah wants to punish. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُم. Except Allah Azza wa Jalla says, the one who Allah shows loving care to, and that's why He created them. He created them so He could show them love and He could show them care. You know, in the Quran, what's the surah? لا يصلها إلا الأشقى. Nabil, can you find the ayat before it? Surah Al-A'la, is it? Layl. What are the ayat? Let me pull up Surah Al-Layl. فأنذرتكم نارا تلظى لا يصلها إلا الأشقى. I'm warning you about a fire that roasts. I'm warning you about a fire that roasts. What is that fire? Jahannam. لا يصلها. No one will be cast in it. إلا الأشقى. Except the most evil people. Al-Ashqa. Al-Ashqa is in the Arabic the superlative. The superlative of Shaqi. And Shaqi is many meanings. Wretched, unfortunate, evil. Man. In that one ayah, Allah does, the average human being will be thrown into hellfire. As a matter of fact, He doesn't even say that people will be thrown, the most wicked will be thrown into hellfire. He says nobody but the most wicked will be thrown into the hellfire. لا يصلها إلا الأشقى. Negation first and then that. لا يصلها إلا الأشقى. Subhanallah. And then وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. The ones that are most protected, the most protected ones are going to be safe from it. That's also a superlative. In other words, what more protection is there than from that? That is the ultimate protection. You think you save yourself from things here? No. The real protection. The most protected people are people that are protected from hellfire. And the people that go in it are the worst of humanity. The worst of humanity. Now, in today's discussion, the third reason that we believe in the akhirah is being described to a group of people that did not believe in an afterlife, or they had different ideas about the afterlife. There are some people who said there isn't any. Some Arabs said there isn't any. Some Arabs said, well, we might come back, but we might come back as a different creature, or we might be reborn through our children or our grandchildren or whatever. There's some kind of reincarnation. Some other people believe that we're just going to become part of nature and, transcendentalism or whatever. Some people said, people had different ideas, right? Everybody's throwing out their ideas. And somebody said, well, God is really loving. No matter what we do here, He loves us way too much. He's just going to hand us the keys to Jannah. There is a heaven. We're all going there. Relax. Just do whatever you want. And people are throwing out their ideas, their concepts about the afterlife. And in the middle of all that conversation, the Prophet is being told to say, go there and say, no. No. La. You're all wrong. Silence. None of this is true. أُقْسِمُ بِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. I swear to the day of resurrection. I swear by the day of resurrection. Why is he saying la first? He's saying la because all of you are wrong. All of your ideas are incorrect. And I'm swearing by the day of resurrection. Now why is he saying I am swearing by the day of resurrection? Why is Allah making him say that? أُقْسِمُ بِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. The Prophet ﷺ had a particular status. He had a particular credibility among the Arabs, even before he was a prophet. When they had a dispute among each other, guess who they went to? The Prophet ﷺ. When there was a fight about who should place the black stone into the Kaaba, who resolves that dispute? The Prophet ﷺ, even before he's a prophet. In other words, they trust his opinion. They think he's the smartest among them. They think he's the most honest among them. They think he's the most sensible among them. They think he's the one who can solve their disputes. Now they're apparently having a dispute about what is going to happen after we die. And the first thing the Prophet says is, I swear to what I'm about to say. I swear to the day of resurrection. In other words, I put my credibility on the line. You guys know who I am. You know the kind of life I've lived. You're the ones who call me truthful and honest and trustworthy. And I put my entire reputation on as evidence. I offer that as evidence that there is, in fact, a day of resurrection. Now we're entering into the third evidence for the day of resurrection. The third evidence for the day of resurrection is the character of the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You study the life of this man, and you study the impact he had in history, you study the effect he had on the people around him. He's just not a liar. He's just not a liar. Allah made him offer his own credibility as evidence. But that's not enough. Then there's the fourth. وَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالنَّفْسِ اللَّوَّامَةِ. No, you're wrong. I swear to the inner self, the nafs, something inside your conscience that keeps feeling guilty over and over and over and over again. Al-lawwama, al-mubalagha, ala takrar. What that means is the person, something inside you blames you and feels guilty over and over and over and over again. It says to you, why did you do that? 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 You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that. And it keeps coming back. Every time you do something bad, there's this thing inside you called guilt. This somebody lives inside you that blames you for what you did and makes you feel bad for what you did. There's this other thing that's inside you. It's called a nafsul lawama. Has anybody here ever experienced guilt? Okay. Now here's the thing with guilt. We're not taught guilt. You can't learn it. First, make a face. Then, you can't be taught this thing that we have inside us. You can't be taught guilt. It is something that occurs to all human beings without having been taught it. Down to a child. Down to a child. You can make a child feel guilty if they did something, if they touch something, you look at them the wrong way. Who taught them to look at my facial expression and know that I'm disappointed with them and they just feel guilty? And they start crying or they become sad. That can't be taught. It's something inside you. Now, guilt happens when you are convinced deep down inside that you have done something wrong. Before it's proven to you scientifically that you did something wrong, before you were made aware of the law that this was wrong, or before somebody else came and told you, by the way, what you did was absolutely wrong, is there something inside you that lets you know that what you did is wrong anyway? Without any intervention from the outside? There's something inside us that just says, I shouldn't have hit him. Something inside us says, I shouldn't have lied like that. Something inside us says, I shouldn't have looked at that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have gone there. It's something inside. You didn't have to get a fatwa. You didn't have to go listen to a lecture. It's something inside you that feels bad when you do something bad. Now, what is the purpose of an alarm? Fire alarm, citywide alarms. Alert you of what? Of a danger. What is inside you, this guilt that you feel inside you, is a bad feeling. And Allah gave us bad feelings. Like He gifted us with negative feelings because they prepare us. They are actually healthy too. Negative emotions are healthy too. Fear is a healthy thing. Guilt is a healthy thing. Even sadness is a healthy thing. It is a necessary thing. People who don't feel sadness are missing something in their life. You can't experience love without experiencing sadness. You can't. So even negative emotions have a positive side to them. Even animals, if they didn't have fear, for example, if animals didn't have fear, what would happen? They would attack all the time. Like a cat would be going after a lion. There would never be any cats anymore. Because they have a problem of what? No fear. Even fear is a good thing. Guilt, even though it feels bad, is a good thing. It's saving you from something. Guilt is saving you from something. What is it saving you from? It is like an alarm system deep inside you that is saying, what you just did is bad, and there's going to be a price to pay. And by the way, when you feel bad and you did something wrong, do you necessarily pay the price right now? Do you necessarily get caught? Do you necessarily get punished? When you lie, is there any lightning strike from the sky? Burning your tongue off? No, you get away with it. But is the guilt still there? And the guilt's letting you know, the buzzer goes off inside. letting you know, look, you're going to be paying for this. I just want to let you know that you did something bad. Now it's letting you know that you've done something wrong, but it's not giving you, the score will be settled, and the punishment, the actual consequences are going to happen when? On Judgment Day. So an alarm system for Judgment Day was placed inside the psyche of a human being. It is called guilt. This is why Allah gave us the gift of guilt, so we could experience a taste of what's coming. So we can fix it now. By the way, how do you fix when you do something wrong? Are you necessarily going to be punished if you make a mistake? Is that true? Will you necessarily be punished if you make a mistake, if you sin? What can you do? You can ask for forgiveness, you can repent, but the only people who repent are people who feel guilty. If you didn't feel guilty, you wouldn't be able to put this fire out. So Allah gave you the alarm, and then Allah gave you the hose that you can take the fire and put it out, and you never have to feel, you won't be in trouble. You'll be fine. SubhanAllah, like Allah gives us one thing, then He gives us the next thing, then He gives us the next thing, then He just equips us. Listen, there's a fire. I'll let you know way in advance if you're doing something that might take you closer to it. Then I'll give you something that'll make sure that you won't have to pay for this sin. I'll give you the gift of forgiveness. But then the question is, all of this is happening in the unseen. The next logical question is, how am I supposed to know that I got forgiven? How am I supposed to know? I asked for forgiveness. I made istighfar. How am I supposed to know that it actually worked? Maybe I asked for forgiveness, but Allah didn't accept it. Is that a reasonable fear? Maybe I asked for forgiveness, but Allah didn't accept it? Sure. And here I am thinking, every time I ask for istighfar, Allah accepted it. I show up on Judgment Day, and only to find out that all the times I asked for forgiveness actually didn't count for anything, and I'm still in trouble. I don't want to be in that position. I want to know for sure if I've been forgiven when I ask for forgiveness. Yet another gift in the Quran. Yet another gift. And what's that gift? If you ask for forgiveness sincerely, then it is a matter of your belief. It is a matter of your belief that in fact you have been forgiven. If you genuinely apologize to Allah for something wrong that you did, then that apology, as a matter of fact, has been accepted. And doubting that is a problem. Doubting that is unacceptable. Saying I'm not sure if it worked or not is unacceptable. It's actually in the Quran. I'll give you a short snippet of where it's in the Quran. It's in Surah Al-Qasas, Surah number 28. The story of Musa alayhi salam. He knows for sure he's forgiven. He wasn't even a prophet yet. He wasn't a prophet yet. And he tried to help somebody out. Two guys were fighting. He tried to help someone out, and he punched one of the guys because he was beating up the other guy. And the other guy who was taking a beating asked for help. فَاسْتَغَاثَهُ الَّذِي مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ عَلَى الَّذِي مِنْ عَدُوِّهِ فَوَكَزَهُ مُوسَى فَقَضَى عَلَيْهِ. Punched him. The guy's knocked out. He's dead. Is he feeling guilty? You just killed someone. You feel guilty? I think that would be one of the ultimate forms of guilt, yes? So he says, رَبِّ إِنِّي ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي فَاغْفِرْ لِي. Master, I have wronged myself. Forgive me. Forgive me. By the way, killing someone, what is the equivalent? You know the Quran says, if you kill someone, what is that the same as? Yes? Yep. It's as if you killed every single human being on the planet. كَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. Whoever kills an innocent person, it's as though they killed all of humanity. All of humanity. So is that a small mistake or a big mistake? Arguably, there isn't a bigger mistake. Arguably. So the guilt is huge. And he turns to Allah and he says, forgive me. I wronged myself, forgive me. In one sentence. I've done something wrong against my own self. I know that I'm going to be paying the price for this. Just forgive me. Allah says, فَغَفَرَ لَهُ. Therefore Allah forgave him. فَاسَبَبِيَّ. Therefore Allah forgave him. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. No doubt about it, He's extremely forgiving. The word inna is important there. Allah mentions inna where there's certainty that forgiveness happens. Sometimes Allah says, وَاللَّهُ غَفُورُ رَحِيمٌ. Sometimes Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورُ رَحِيمٌ. Sometimes Allah says, and Allah is forgiving. Sometimes Allah says, absolutely Allah is forgiving. Whenever He says in the Quran, absolutely Allah is forgiving, you know what He's saying? Forgiveness is given? Absolutely. He asked for forgiveness and forgiveness was given? Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, is Musa alayhi salam a prophet yet? Did I tell you? No, but in the very next ayah, he actually already knows that he's forgiven, because that's what a believer is supposed to believe. The believer is supposed to believe that as soon as they ask genuine forgiveness of Allah, it has been granted. Therefore he says, رَبِّ بِمَا أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ فَلَا نَكُونَ ظَهِيرًا لِلْمُجْرِمِينَ. Master, for the favor you've done me, I will never back up criminals again. What favor did Allah do for him? Forgave him. But did Allah tell him explicitly that He forgave him? No. And is he a prophet that he would know that on his own yet? No. He just knew because he asked for genuine forgiveness. In other words, now Allah has given us this gift of guilt. So you can make a pretty big mistake and be forgiven. I'm not saying you go out and do it, by the way. But if you made a mistake in your past, and you can be forgiven, all you need to do is what? It's got to be genuine. It's got to be heartfelt. It's got to be real. A real apology to Allah, not a fake one. I know when people say, sincerely ask for forgiveness, those are formal words. I want to bring it a little closer to home for you. If it's not real, if you're faking it, nobody knows that better than Allah does, so keep it to yourself. Unless you're really apologizing to Allah, don't even bother. Unless you're really sorry to Allah, don't even bother. If it's not real, it's worthless. If it's not from here, it's worthless. If you sincerely ask, then you know what? فَغَفَرَ لَهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. This is the gift of guilt. This is why Allah makes this an evidence of Judgment Day. A proof that a day is coming where you will see the consequence. You'll be sorry for what you did. That you'll be sorry inside of you is letting you know a day is coming where you truly will be sorry. There is no bigger evidence of the akhirah than what lives inside you. Lives inside you. So this is one of the great evidences in the Quran for akhirah, for what we're going to be facing. Now Allah starts asking some rhetorical questions. أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَلَّن نَجْمَعَ عِظَامَهُ. Has the human being assumed, or does the human being assume that we are not going to put together his bones again? بَلَا قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُسَوِّيَ بَنَانَهُ. Rather, on the contrary, we are completely capable, and we've always been capable, يعني كُنَّا قَادِرِينَ, we've always been capable of putting together and balancing even his fingertips. Forget the big bones, I'll even put your fingertips back together, you'll come together exactly as you used to be. بَلْ يُرِيدُ الْإِنسَانُ لِيَفْجُرَ أَمَامَهُ. But rather the fact of the matter instead is that the human being just wants to explode into whatever is in front of him. Now let me explain what that means. Al-fujur in Arabic has to do with an explosion. That's why infijar is an Arabic word for explosion itself. Fajr is called the Fajr prayer because the lightning, or the morning light explodes through the darkness. It bursts out. Okay? So fujur in Arabic is also used for somebody who does bad things, who can't control themselves, and they just like gush into whatever words that come out of their mouth. They don't hold themselves back, the words just explode out of their mouth. A temptation happens, they want to go somewhere, they just get in the car and just go. Like they have no brakes, nothing holds them back from doing what they want to do. A good word for that in English is people that are impulsive. People that are impulsive, right? They just do whatever they feel like doing and when they feel like doing it. Nothing holds them back. They don't think about the consequences of what they're saying or what they're doing or where they're spending or how they're earning or anything. They don't think about the consequences, they just do it. Okay? If they feel like it, they do it. Which, by the way, is natural for an animal. An animal has an impulse and it does something. An animal feels like going up a tree, it goes, coming down a tree, it comes down. An animal feels like attacking, it doesn't wait and say, I don't know, we'll do it later. It just does it. If it has an urge, it has an impulse, it just does it. This is not actually good for human beings. If that was the case, again, we wouldn't have civilization, because your impulse, for example, is to come, you're driving over here, right? And you just want to get here. What's in the way though? The red traffic lights in the way, there are stop signs in the way. There are, your side of the road is completely blocked. The other side is completely empty. The impulse is maybe in your head, just go. Just go. But what do? You stay still. You stay in your place. Why do you stay in your place? What's the one thing keeping you from not cutting a red light or going on the other side of the street? What is it? Well, one is obviously danger. But what's another? It's fear. It's something bad will happen. Like, I can't do this. It's wrong to do it. And I know if I get caught, there'll be trouble. And if I got caught, I'll probably put myself in danger, not even if I don't get I get caught, I'll probably get into an accident. Like these laws are there for a reason. They're saving me trouble. These laws are keeping me from harming myself and harming others. Isn't that the purpose of a law? Like in many cases, it keeps you from putting yourself in danger and putting others in danger. Somebody speeding down the highway going at 120 miles an hour is not only putting their own life in danger, they're also endangering other people that are on the road, right? The laws are there not just to save you from yourself. If you don't care about yourself, at least you have to care about other people, you know? So the idea here is Allah describes the kind of person that is impulsive. And then says, you don't like to think about the fact that you're going to be raised again, that I'm going to put your fingertips back together. You don't like to think about the day of resurrection because you just want to do what you want to do and you don't want to think about the consequences. بَلْ يُرِيدُ الْإِنسَانُ لِيَفْجُرَ أَمَامَهُ. People just want to be impulsive. They just want to do what feels good. And you feel like doing it right now. Remember that cash and credit transaction? What does shaitan offer you? Cash. Just do something, it'll feel good when? Right now. Right? Just be impulsive. Just live in the moment. Live in the moment. Or as Nike would say it, just do it. Just do it. Nobody says just think. Just hold on a second. There's no logo that says just hold on a second. Just think about this. Don't be stupid. Just do it. Obey your thirst. Which one is that? Who knows what that is? That's right. God, you need to watch more commercials. Anyway, so human beings just want to be impulsive. What is in front of you? Amamahu. What is right in front of him? He just wants to do it. Yas'alu ayyana yawmul qiyamah. Then he has the audacity to ask. He asks, seriously, when is the day of resurrection? When is the day I have to stand? I want to do this now. Talk about day of judgment, day of resurrection. You know, I've seen my share of heartbreak in the Muslim family as I've traveled around. You'll have some family where there's some boy and he's like obsessed with some girl from school and he says, Mom, I love her. I'm going to marry her. But you're 14. And it's not even legal. We're running away together. There's nothing you can do about it. Who is she? Well, she's Hindu, but that doesn't matter. Love is stronger than our religions. And this mother's going crazy. She's trying to talk sense into this kid. Fear Allah. There are consequences for what you're doing. You don't realize what you're doing. I'm not a kid, okay? I have real feelings. Okay? What about judgment? I don't care about judgment day. I just love her, okay? I want to be with her right now. That's literally يُرِيدُ الْإِنسَانُ لِيَفْجُرَ أَمَامَهُ. Just right now. I don't care about later. You tell somebody about later, what about your future? I don't care about my future. I'm sure none of you have ever had any conversation even remotely similar to this, where you say, I don't care about what's going to happen. Because you're seriously mature youth, which is the majority of youth. Anyway, yas'alu ayyana yawmul qiyamah. He just asks impulsively, what? Day of resurrection, day of standing in front of Allah. Please. That's not right now. I don't care about that. فَإِذَا بَرِقَ الْبَصَرُ. Then out of nowhere, all of a sudden, when the eyes are completely like this, they're twinkled because of the lightning. When the eyes are overwhelmed by lightning. وَخَسَفَ الْقَمَرُ. And the moon starts sinking. وَجُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ. And the moon and the sun are being merged. The sun and the moon are being merged together. Day of Judgment's beginning. It's so bright. The sun's come so close that you can't even open your eyes. And when you do see it, you see the moon coming into the sun and just sinking into the sun. And then you're now going nuts and saying, أَيْنَ الْمَفَرُ. A human being starts crying out, where can I run off to? Where can I hide? كَلَّا لَا وَزَرْ. No. There's nothing of any serious weight anymore. Serious weight used to be used, wazar was used for a barrier. Because a barrier, if it's not heavy, like a door that's not bolted or heavy, it's not secure. If it's a light door, and it's made of cardboard, or it's made of sheetrock, you can punch right through it. So if you want a serious door, or a serious bolt that you can hide behind and nothing can get through, then you need a wazar, something heavy, something with real weight. Allah says there's no bolt, there's no vault, there's no secure place you can go, and there's no bunker. La wazar. Ila rabbika yawma idhinil mustaqar. It is only to your master today that you have to stay. You have to go and stand there. Al-mustaqar. Mustaqar is used when you stand somewhere temporarily, by the way. When you say somewhere temporarily. So you're heading towards your master temporarily. Why? Because when people go in front of Allah on Judgment Day, that's temporary. What is permanent? Where they end up after that. Right? So the Judgment Day is a temporary scene. That's why al-mustaqar. Yunabba'ul insanu yawma idhin. This is the ayah now. The human being is going to be thoroughly informed. You are going to be told in great detail. Every human being will be told in great detail. Bima qaddama wa akhara. They're going to be told in great detail about everything that was important to them and everything that could wait. Everything that he made priority and everything he put on the back burner. Everything that he put forward, everything that he held back. What that means is, what is important to you, you do right now. What is less important to you, you do it later. Look, I run a company. I have a phone with like emails and text messages that are overwhelming. What do? I sift through all of my emails and I say, I need to respond to this one right away. And some of them, what do? I'll answer it when? I'll answer that later. I'll answer that one later. I'll answer that one later. I get like 100 text messages. I'll respond to 5 or 6 of them and say the other ones can wait. I can't do those right now. They're not as important. In other words, we're constantly deciding what matters and what doesn't matter. What do I need to do? What can wait? Isn't that what we do in life? For the phone messages you receive, for the assignments you have to do, for the job you have to do, you constantly have to decide what is more important, what is less important. What is more important, what is less important. What needs to be done right now, what needs to wait. That's the entire summary of worldly life. People will decide, the difference between a believer and a disbeliever practically is just that. It's not just we believe in Allah and Judgment Day and Akhirah and the Prophets and they don't believe in those things. No. That's just conceptually, that's just in your head. Practically, the difference between a believer and a disbeliever is what is a priority and what is not a priority. My priority right now, for a disbeliever, his priority may be having a good time. What really matters is I'm having a good time. I'm getting what I want. I can be with who I want to be, when I want to be with them, how I want to be with them. That's all up to me. What I eat, when I eat, how I eat, that's my priority. I just want to li'afjura amami, so that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, right in front of me. I can be impulsive. A believer's priority, maybe there's an urge inside you to want to do certain things, but there's a bigger priority inside you that says, actually, this is going to have, less reward. This is not going to pay me much. This might even get me in trouble. I'm going to do what pays the most. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing that you have to understand in this, under this ayah, under the umbrella of this ayah. And that is that there's a concept of return on investment. If you don't know what the term means, just write it down. Return on investment. Our company uses it all the time. We call it ROI. What I'm doing, the most important thing that people have in life, you'll learn this in business school later on, the most important thing people have is time. The most important thing you have, the most valuable asset you have is time. So, just as, I can give examples from where I'm sitting so I can relate to this, so hopefully you can understand through the example I'm giving. Then I'll give you an example for yourself also. I am in charge of Bayina, and Bayina has maybe 30 projects going on at the same time. There's 30 different things happening. This is one of an endless number of things. And I obviously have to oversee a bunch of stuff. But I have to decide on a daily basis, what am I going to deal with? What deserves most of my time? And what somebody else can take care of. Or if nobody takes care of for now, it's okay. Even though it's not the best thing. I wish I could take care of everything. But I can't. I have to decide, this is the most important thing. This is the best use of my time. Then this is the best use of my afternoon. Then this is the best use of my evening. And this is the best use of my morning. I have to decide this. Because I have to realize that the most important thing I can give to the organization is what? My time. And it's not just about the organization. How am I going to balance my time with my organization, with my family, with my own self? My time for myself, time for my parents, time for my sisters. There's people that need my time. And I need my time with them. I need to balance all of this out. But you know what? If I don't have a good sense of what's important and what's not important, I might give something a lot of importance and give all of my time to it at the expense of other things. Isn't that true? At the end of the day, though, you have to understand this concept of return on investment. Why am I spending the time doing what I'm doing? In business, before we talk about life, in business, one of the most valuable lessons I learned, I recommend this book, by the way. If you get a chance to read it, read it. It's called The 4-Hour Workweek. Look it up. It's called The 4-Hour Workweek. Those of you, that, especially that are seniors in high school, read it. It'll help you. It'll be good for you. So how much time of a day do I spend answering emails, checking voicemails, updating Facebook, or whatever? And is that really absolutely necessary? How can I become, like, I do a lot of work, but how much of it is actually the best possible use of my time? They ask this question in business all the time. They ask this question in business. As a matter of fact, if you look at employees at companies, they spend most of their day doing stuff that's not that productive. It's not the best use. Maybe it's like 40, 50 minutes or 2 hours at the most in the 9-hour workday that they actually did solid work. Solid, like productive work. You know? Most of the day is just kind of spent in fluff. It's just spent in fluff. And when it comes to the akhirah, when it comes to this life, then I have to decide, what is this, what am I doing? What I'm doing right now, what is it worth? Look, if some boy or some girl is dating a guy, some boy's dating a girl, or worse, right? They're going out. If you ask yourself, what is that worth? The boy says, what is this worth? Well, she's pretty. I like her. I'm going to get some pleasure out of this. That's what it's worth. That's the price. That's the prize he's going for. And what is the cost? Because every time you get something, you have to lose something. To gain something, you have to lose something. So what is he losing? Well, I'm losing some of my dignity, possibly humiliating her family. The angels are recording this against me. I'm going to have to answer Allah for this. That's some of the cost. And constantly you have to see, well, is that worth it? Or is the cost too high? Is the price too high? When the price is too high, you say, man, it ain't worth it. If the price is cheap, then you just do it. It's on sale, it's cheap. But if it's way too high, then you're like, forget that. Like just yesterday, I bought my mama, when I was in Canada, I bought her a rug, like a musalla thing. But it's not really a musalla thing, it's a really decorative, handmade thing at a convention, at RIS. I bought it for her, I was really happy because it was cheap. It was on sale. It was, when they're closing down the stalls, that's when you go buy stuff. Just remember, when you go to an Islamic convention, sorry Islamic convention people, go to the stall the day they're closing. They just want to give it away. That's the time to shop. Okay, most people just shop on the day they start. That's when the prices are here. When the day they're ending, the prices are down here. Anyway, so I bought this thing. I was like, hey, this is really beautiful. I want to get it framed. So I go to this place. I say, hey, I want to get this framed. Okay, sir. They take like forever to measure the thing, and the framing will cost you $934. This is 4 square feet. You're asking me for $250 a square foot? Real estate in California is cheaper than $250 a square foot. I could buy 4 square feet of beachfront in California for $920. I'm going to get something framed for $900. What do you, like, is it platinum plated framing? Did you take your gold tooth off and stick it in? Like, how is this piece of wood $920? Oh, no, most of the cost is labor. Really, labor? How long will it take you to frame this sucker? Because unless it'll take you 920 hours, I don't really see the point. It's ridiculous. It's not worth the price. You will not put your time in something. You will not put your value in something. You will not spend on something that isn't worth it. If it's not worth it, it's not worth it. That's it. This is the real question. What did you think was worth it? And what did you think wasn't worth it? All the stuff that you do in your life, especially in your young years, because you have a lot of free time. You have tons and tons and tons of free time. If you were just intelligent enough to ask yourself the question, what I'm about to do for the next few hours, is it worth it? Is it worth my time? What I'm about to do tonight, is it worth it? Is it worth the price I'm going to pay later? You'd be a different person. There are young people that are very high achievers. You know, there are people that are like valedictorian in their school, and they get like super scholarships, and they're like top of their class, and then they get like all kinds of awards, and then they get internships, and then before they even graduate, they're making like $100,000 a year, and they're super high achievers. Look at super high achievers in the worldly sense, you'll find something. They have a lot of respect for their time. Everybody else is going to watch a movie. Nah, guys, I got to study. They ask themselves, going to a movie, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a great time. Okay, that's what I'm going to get out of that. But this exam I have tomorrow, if I go there, the cost will be I will not be ready for this exam. I might not get the score I'm hoping to get, probably won't. Might even fail the exam. Is that worth it? Is the movie worth it? So the responsible student decides, no, it's not worth it, I'm going to study. Did he still want to go to the movie? Yeah, totally. Islam's not saying, the Qur'an's not saying you don't have desires. Like you don't want to do certain stuff. Absolutely you do. But are you willing to not deny yourself, but hold yourself back? By the way, the guy that held himself back and got this epic job and did fantastic at school and runs a business, works 4 hours a week and watches movies anytime he wants or whatever. Why? Because he paid the price when? Early on. That's just a worldly example. But this is way bigger than that. This is way bigger. You make the right decisions now, and you will reap the benefits later. Big time. Big time. So this is يُنَبَّأُ الْإِنسَانُ بِمَا قَدَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِمَا قَدَّمَ وَأَخَّرَ بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا. I love this ayah. The human being, the best person who has a full picture of what the human being is up to is himself. The human being is in full view, best view of himself. Who you are and what you do with your day and what you're really worth and what kind of person you really truly are, the best person to know that is who? Yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, then وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا, even if it be the case, even if it had been the case, that he keeps making excuses and he keeps justifying. This is Allah talking. It's such an incredible statement. There are people who do the wrong thing, and when you question them, they make all kinds of what? Justifications, excuses. No, that wasn't, I was under a lot of pressure, okay? No, I didn't mean to do that. No, you don't understand. Okay, there are a lot of factors here that you're not considering. It's not that easy just to blame me. I'm not the only one to blame. It wasn't just my fault. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. Human beings, whenever they get in trouble, from childhood to adulthood, when they get in trouble, the first impulse is to make excuses. But behind all the excuses, the real truth, who knows it? That person themselves. If they never said it out loud, and they were able to get away with their excuses in front of the whole world, they cannot escape themselves. They themselves know what they did. They themselves know what they said. Nobody else got to blame them. Everybody else got off their back and they said, okay, fine, you got an excuse. All right, fine, whatever you say. It happens between parents and children. Parents say, hey, did you say that to your sister? No, I never said anything. Say, they're lying. I didn't say that. I never say anything like that. You always blame me. Okay, you didn't say it. All right. And in the head there's another conversation. I did say it. Got away that was close. They almost didn't believe me that time. Oh my God. Okay, got to keep it cool for the next couple of days. 2 hours later. In other words, you could sell cake to the world. You could sell cake to your parents. Remember selling cake? But deep down inside, you know. Now the reason that's important to mention is because when Judgment Day comes, these hands start talking. The mouth starts talking, but it's not connected to your brain anymore. It's talking all on its own. The eyes start talking. أَنْتَقَنَا الَّذِي أَنْتَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. The one who gave everything the power to speak, gave us the power to speak, they say. And these hands start testifying, He made me smacker. I didn't want to do it. I'm your creation, Ya Allah. I don't disobey you. But you had given Him authority over me. I slapped him. I slapped her because he made me. you should punish him for that. This is Allah's creation. This is in obedience to Allah. But temporarily, Allah has given us authority over this, and over this, and over this, and over this. This control we have over our body is temporary. Then, Judgment Day comes, and guess what happens? That control, remote control that Allah put inside you in here, He disconnects it. You don't have control over your body. Then it's back in the control of who? Allah. And then Allah asks your hand, so what have you done? What did He make you do? Tell me everything He made you do. And the hand starts talking. Then He asks the mouth, what did He make you say? Tell me. And He asks the eyes, what did He make you look at? What did He make you listen to? He asks the feet, where did He make you go? He asks. Every body part speaks. Ya Rab, you know, you were there. I've done some horrible things because of him. And the person who had control over this body and thought, this is mine. If there's one thing that always does what you want, it's what? This body. It always does what you want. It does what you want. You're in shock and you say, Lima shahidtum alayna. Why are you testifying against us? Why are you... You're speaking against me? You are me. No, I'm not. This was just given to you. So Allah says, you yourself, it's the best witness. Nobody else. You yourself are enough of a witness. You can make all the excuses you want. وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا. Now the subject in the surah changes. And the subject in the surah changes almost dramatically. It's called iltifat, a sudden change in subject. لَا تُحَرِّكْ بِهِ لِسَانَكَ لِتَعْجَلَ بِهِ. Don't rush your tongue to memorize the Qur'an quickly. The Prophet is being told, don't rush to acquire the Qur'an. إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا جَمْعَهُ وَقُرْآنَهُ. No doubt about it. We will make sure that the entire Qur'an gets gathered in your heart, that we will be the only one responsible for getting it gathered. فَإِذَا قَرَأْنَاهُ فَاتَّبِعْ قُرْآنَهُ. When we get it recited to you, when we read it on to you, then just follow along. Meaning when the angel reads it to you, then you just follow along. ثُمَّ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا بَيَانَهُ. Then we ourselves have taken the responsibility to make sure that it gets explained. The fact that we have the Qur'an right now and it's being explained is Allah taking the responsibility that this word will not go anywhere. It will stay preserved. And not only will the words stay preserved, its meanings will stay preserved. Because sometimes you have words, but you have no idea what they mean. Just recently I saw some weird documentary. There's some indigenous people somewhere. They have this language and they have this poem that they've passed down for generations, and it's considered the oldest piece of language in human archive. It's passed down from generation. Nobody knows what it means. The words are there, but the meanings are gone. They recite it, they have no idea what they're reciting. And you can't find out because it's way too ancient. It's way far back. So sometimes the words are preserved, but the meanings aren't. The Quran, Allah says, you don't have to rush. I'll make sure it gets compiled, gathered. When you recite it, just follow along with the angel. We'll make sure you recite it properly, and we'll make sure it gets explained to. Allah will make sure that it gets explained to. Now, it's a different subject. Let me talk about this different subject, then I'll tell you how it's connected. Okay? So this different subject that came in the middle about the gathering of the Qur'an, the Prophet ﷺ was really, really worried. Because at the end of the day, the Prophet ﷺ is a human being. And he's been given the task of taking these final letters from God to all human beings. They have to be preserved in his heart. And he's already 40 years old when he begins this mission, and he doesn't even know how long to live. And his responsibility is to make sure this word gets preserved and gets delivered, and the entire planet's worth of human beings are going to need the one message that he is receiving. He is responsible to make sure it gets delivered properly. And he is incapable, by Allah's permission, incapable of writing it down, because he can't write or read. So the only thing he has to save this message, to store it, is what? His heart. He's got to memorize it. And he's really nervous that he may not be able to remember all of it, because if he doesn't do this job, then humanity will pay the price. So he's really, really nervous about this job. So when the ayat would come, he would try to quickly memorize them and repeat them and memorize them and repeat them. If you have like 5 minutes to memorize and you'll fail, what would you do? Just memorize, quickly, test is coming, you see? So he was nervous to memorize it really, really quickly. Just on a side note, I'm reminded of a weird, funny story. You know, we have in our Arabic program, there's a requirement to memorize Surah Al-Kahf. You will not graduate if you don't memorize the surah. We tell students that on the first day. They have about 200 days to memorize it. And they say, yeah, of course I'll memorize it. Then there's like a month left to graduation. It's that I didn't memorize it. Can I still graduate? No, you can't graduate. But I did so well in everything else. Okay. Congratulations on doing so well in everything else. You still can't graduate. Then a student comes, but I don't know how to memorize. Oh, really? You just discovered that you don't know how to memorize. Whose fault is that? Sorry. You know how the ayah says, don't rush your tongue to memorize it? Well, you should. Then there's a student, says, I have 5 pages left. Graduation's in 3 days. I can't do it. Sorry. I mean, I printed your diploma, but doesn't mean I'll give it to you. And then a homegirl stays here. She gets here at 7 a.m. She leaves here at 8, 9 p.m. Class is until 2:30. She sits in that hallway by the bathrooms over there and sits there in the hallway and she's memorizing and memorizing and memorizing and memorizing. And she comes the next day, Ustad, I really can't do it. And I say, I can't graduate you. It hurts me so much. 3 days later, she's done it. I started graduating. I memorized it. I was like, I know you could. I knew you could. Very good. When you put a deadline, what happens? You rush it. The Prophet feels a deadline. Naturally, he will want to rush it. But Allah will change the rules for him. And He will tell him, no, don't you worry. Don't you worry about it. You take your time. Just follow along with the angel. I'll make sure it settles in your heart. You will be the best hafiz ever. You just follow along one time. You just read what he's reciting to you one time, and you will have it memorized. And his hifz, the Rasul is the first hafiz, the first human hafiz of the Quran. His hifz is different from everybody else's. He's different from everybody else's. You know why? Because some ayat are coming from this surah, and some ayat are coming from that surah, and some ayat are coming from that surah, and he's already in Medina, and there are some incomplete surahs from Makkah still, some of the completing ayat are coming from that, and then some ayat are coming from this Madani surah, and that Madani surah, and that Madani surah, and in his heart, he already knows, Allah has already told him, this ayah goes here, that ayah goes there, that one goes here, this one goes here, and the surahs aren't even complete yet, but he knows which ones go where. No paper. No paper. He says, don't worry. Don't rush. Allah says, we alone have taken responsibility that all of it will be gathered and will get recited. So when it gets recited to you, just follow along. When we read it to you, follow along. We'll make sure that it gets clarified too, it gets explained too. Because when all of your focus is on memorizing, then none of your focus is on what? Explaining. We'll make sure it gets explained too. Now in all of this, the Prophet is rushing. He wants to rush towards something good. This is actually it's a beautiful example of contrast in the Quran. The previous passage was about people who don't care about Judgment Day. And because they don't care about Judgment Day, the only thing they rush towards is bad things. They're impulsive. Who's an impulsive person? They rush towards something bad. But when someone believes in Judgment Day, then they rush towards something good. So there's two kinds of rushing. You can rush towards something bad, or you can rush towards something good. As a matter of fact, rushing altogether isn't good. Take your time doing something good, and take your time, and the only thing you can rush from is rush away from something bad. But in order to do something, never be impulsive. Just don't be impulsive. Don't rush. That's the lesson here. As a matter of fact, if you try to rush into doing something good too much, like you jump right in and you go all out, you're going to get burnt out. You're just going to get burnt out. خَيْرُ الْأُمُورِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. The best kinds of deeds are the ones that are the most constant and stable and continuous, even if they're a little bit. You rush right in. Somebody says, Ustad, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to go to school. I just want to learn the Quran. I don't want to do anything else. I want to learn Islam. Okay. Go ahead. Then this 16-year-old, 15-year-old starts memorizing Quran like 8 hours a day. And guess what? 3 months later, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. It's too much. It's a bit too much. I think I need to take it easy. And they just burn out. Don't rush into stuff. Do not rush into stuff. Even rushing into good. Rushing into good is bad. You know why? Because you burn out. Rushing into bad is, any bad deed, any temptation is bad because you don't think about the consequences. You don't think about what's going to happen later. You know? So both sides are described. Then Allah says, Kalla, but the reality is, no, not at all. Tuhibbuna al-ajila. All human beings, you just love to rush. You just love rushing into things. Good or bad, you just want things quickly. There's human nature that we want things quickly. Is that true? Human nature to want things quickly? Young man is of the age of getting married. What does he want to do? Get married this afternoon. I was at a convention and they had written question answers. You know those written question answers? One guy wrote, I am 17 years old. I need to get married. And he put now in the rest of the page. It was like font size 70. Now. I need to get married now. كَلَّا بَلْ تُحِبُّونَ الْعَاجِلَةَ. You give young people a car, standing at a red light. What are they doing? Put it in neutral. There's a grandma next to you in like a 1997 Kia. And she's looking at you like, what you don't know is she's got her car nitroed out. I'm just an old lady. تحبون العاجلة. It's actually happened to me before. When I was in high school, there was an old lady in an Oldsmobile. How would I know she's got like a turbo engine in there? How was I supposed to know? Some lecturer goes, old one, she's got like white hair, she's all wrinkly, she looks at me like, and then light turns green, she's like, oh, that burned. That burned. We love to rush. We love racing games. We love to beat our record time. We love to run faster, drive faster. We want to finish one thing and move on to the next. We don't want to wait. You watch, you people are addicts to TV shows. Episode shows up, you watch it, and you're like, oh, the whole week I gotta wait. Oh, why can't it happen right away? And some people are very patient, mashallah. They wait till the entire season is over, then they watch all of it in one shot. Very mashallah, their sabr is amazing. That they can hold up. Not gonna watch it? No, I'm not watching anything. No. Now it's the whole thing's out? Okay. 1 episode, 2 episodes, 3 episodes, 4 episodes. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. Regimes in the world change. The map of the world is different, but you are in front of this TV in full i'tikaf because the season is out, you know. We love rushing. We don't like to wait. We hate waiting. Doctors' offices, departments of motor vehicles, the line for a passport, the visa line, the airport line, the security check-in line, the line to get into the plane. تُحِبُّونَ الْعَاجِلَةَ. You love to rush. Allah put that in you. But that loving to rush, it's a good thing unless it's out of control. For good or bad deeds. If it's out of control, it's a bad thing. And by the way, that love to rush, if you don't control it, then what happens? Then you only care about things that can come to you immediately, and you forget about what? The afterlife, which is why the next ayah says, وَتَذَرُونَ الْآخِرَةَ. You've just completely left the akhirah, you've completely left the afterlife. You just want things that come quickly. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ. There are going to be faces that day that are going to be smiling, lit, bright, brilliant, shiny faces. People are just... You know, there's some people, if you know people, you just see their face and you're like, hey, why are you so happy? What happened to you? What happened? Tell me, what happened? Tell me. No, I can't tell you. No, but you look so happy. You usually look depressed and like suicidal, but you look so happy today. Something happened. You need to tell me. Their faces are lit up. ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة. Those faces are going to be looking, staring at their Rabb. There are people who get to look at Allah. There's the opposite side. وَلَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Allah will not look at them and they cannot look at Allah. There are people that are trying to look at Allah and Allah won't gift them with His look. They are looking at their Rabb. They're looking at Allah. وَوُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ بَاصِرَةٌ. Then there are faces that are just depressed, overwhelmed with grief, frowning. You could just look at their faces and what is wrong? What happened? تَظُنُّ أَن يُفْعَلَ بِهَا فَاقِرَةٌ. They are convinced that any moment now, some back-breaking hit is going to come at them. You know what this look is? This look is, I know it's a bad example, but it'll give you the idea. You're crossing the street, and you didn't realize that an 18-wheeler is coming, and it's too close now for you to get away. It's too close. It's too fast and too close for you to get away. In the next half second, you are going to be crushed. You're looking at the truck. The face you make, the face is of someone convinced that they're about to be. That's the face. That's the face being described. Some back-breaking hit is about to hit them, and their face is. If you're driving, and just yesterday it happened to me. We were driving, everything was moving fine on the 183, and then all of a sudden, traffic just comes to an extreme halt. And even if you're able to stop your car in time from hitting the next one, that's not the real worry. The real worry is the guy behind you. Because if that guy doesn't realize, and he was coming fast, and there's a car on this lane, there's a car on this, I can't go anywhere, so I am stuck. So if that guy doesn't wake up, I'm done. And there's a face I had, and your heart races into your throat. And he realized what he's doing, and he just kind of pulled out, because he was going too fast to be able to stop. So he pulled out. Thank goodness he looked ahead, because some people sometimes they're driving, they're texting or whatever, and they don't slow down in time. They don't slow down in time, And by the way, when that happens, your heart doesn't just come back down into your chest. It stays up there for a while. You're shaken up for a while. تَظُنُّ أَن يُفْعَلَ بِهَا فَاقِرَةٌ. That's Judgment Day. And even when the person hears that, he goes, oh, but that's Judgment Day. When that terrible thing is going to happen. That's so far away. Why should I worry about that now? كَلَّا. No. إِذَا بَلَغَتِ التَّرَاقِي. When this life that was put inside of you reaches up to your throat, meaning the soul, the ruh, is leaving your body. وَقِيلَ. And the person is about to die, and he's choking, and he says, Man! Raq! When the Qur'an recite this ayah, how are you supposed to recite it? The noon is supposed to fuse into the ra. So you say, وَقِيلَ مَرَّاق. That's not how you recite it. This is how you recite it. That's how the Prophet taught it. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاق. You're supposed to stop there. Why are you supposed to stop there? Because a person is dying. They can't even speak. The life is reaching into the throat, it's about to leave your body, the soul's about to leave your body. And the person says, is there anyone? Oh, doctor! They can't even finish the sentence. People are trying to listen to what they're saying. Maraq means someone who can recite something on me, someone who can pray on me, somebody who can just bless me or something. Is there somebody who can undo this that's happening to me? Man raq wa dhanna. Then he realized annahu al-firaq. The time has come for the partition to happen, for you to break apart. There's going to be a breaking apart. Your body's going to stay, and your ruh is going to go. You're going to break apart into two. You were always two. You didn't know it, but now you realize it. So your ruh is being pulled out by the angels. The Prophet would describe, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the ruh that lives inside of us, when it's pulled out of a good person, it's like when you pour water out of a jug. The jugs that are kind of curved, and the water doesn't gulp down, it kind of smoothly flows down. Then there are other containers, when you pour them down, what happens? It comes in gulps, it falls down. It's lumpy a little bit when it pours, but there are some containers where it's just smooth. It doesn't even make a sound. That's the way the ruh will come out of a good person. Then he was asked, what about a bad person? What about a person who wasn't ready for death? When the angel comes in, yanks his soul out of the body, how's it going to feel? And he said, if you take a piece of wool, and you stick it in a bunch of thorns, like a thorny bush, and you pull out the wool. What happens? It starts tearing and ripping. It's ripping the insides of the person out as the soul is coming out. And he realizes this is the time to separate. وَالْتَفَّتِ السَّاقُ بِالسَّاقِ. And then you know what the saq is? The saq is your heel, your foot. The foot starts dragging against the other foot. Imagine a patient lying in the hospital bed, or you're lying in your bed sick, and you're in so much pain because the soul is coming out. You know when people are in so much pain in a hospital bed, their feet rub against each other? Like they're just lying there, just rubbing their feet. They don't know what else to do with the pain. That's the image. The feet will rub against the feet. They'll twine. The legs will twine into each other. The person doesn't even know how else to deal with the pain, but the legs twine into each other. The other description of وَالْتَفَّتِ السَّاقُ بِالسَّاقِ, they use this when a camel, camels can stay without water for a long time, but not forever. So when a camel's completely run out of water, and it's got nowhere to go, and it can't find any water, eventually, it's got these 4 legs, but eventually its legs lock into each other, and it just tips over. That's called التفت الساق بالساق. Allah is describing a person that maybe he's walking around and the angel came and he's yanking the soul out and his legs lock into each other and he just التفت الساق بالساق. The moment of death. The moment of death. Why is Allah describing the moment of death? Allah is describing the moment of death because the person used to think, when is Judgment Day coming? That's so far away. Who cares? Judgment Day is far away. What's not far away? Death isn't. Death is not far away. And when your death is written and when my death is written is not up to us. Just like it wasn't up to us when we will be born, it is not up to us when we will die. It is not up to us to know whether we will live to be 12 years old or 80 years old. It's not up to us. Whether this is the last month of our life or we have another 50 years to go is not up to us. It's just not. But are we ready for it? And to be ready for something that can happen at any time, you have to be ready when? Always. Ever since 9/11, the airports have orange security. Security level orange. Orange means that it's very serious. It's very serious. For 13 years now, security levels at airports has been orange. It hasn't gone down to yellow because the nation is constantly worried about an attack. Constantly. It's not one day that security goes down and there's no metal detector and there's no scanning and there's no special security. Not once. There's no one day where you say keep the laptop in the bag, it's fine. Nope. You will take it out every day, every time. You will take it out. Why is that? Because they know there's a constant threat. It can happen anytime. Well, you know what? For us, it's not even orange, it's red. It can happen at any time. Code red. وَالْتَفَّتِ السَّاقُ بِالسَّاقِ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْمَسَاقُ. To your master today, you are going to be herded like an animal. Good people will be taken, honored. The angels will take them and they will carry them and lift them and honor them, dress them really nicely, put perfume on them, and they'll go from one sky to the next, to the next, to the next, until they will meet with Allah, and then they come back down and they're relaxing in their grave, and their grave opens up wide. But not so good people. They don't even make it past the first sky. They go up there and the angels at the first sky start asking, what is that nasty smell? Who is this? And they'll say, this is so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, or the daughter of so-and-so. They did these terrible things. Take them back down and give them a glimpse of hell. Take them back down. They're taken back into their grave. Their grave starts squeezing in on them. The Prophet would describe, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that it squeezes so tight that the ribs go into each other. And then a window is opened for Jahannam. A window of hellfire is open so they can see where they're going to be going. For the believer, the grave becomes so open and so wide that they cannot see the end of it. And they're given a window and they can feel the breeze coming in from Jannah into their grave. And then believers actually have a pretty amazing gift. They can actually visit each other. They can visit each other's graves. Hey. Good stuff. Yep. It's another kind of life. I don't get ideas like Casper or like, the Addams Family or whatever. It's not like that. It's a beautiful version of life that even happens after death for the believer. إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْمَسَاقُ. Now Allah describes this person. Why would Allah do this thing to them? Look at this guy that's being interrogated. فَلَا صَدَّقَ وَلَا صَلَّى. He didn't accept this as the truth. He didn't really believe that it was the truth. And the real evidence that he didn't believe it was the truth, وَلَا صَلَّى, he never prayed. He didn't pray. Neither did he accept it as the truth, nor did he pray. Allah is saying the first thing that you will regret when you die is going to be that in your head you didn't accept it as the truth, but practically what's the thing you'll regret? That you didn't pray. Now prayer wasn't a big deal to you. The Prophet would describe that a believer is lying in his grave, or no, somebody's lying in his grave, and a python, a poisonous snake shows up, coils up on his chest, and raises its head, takes its fangs out, and then says, I will bite you for every prayer you missed. And it begins. That's not on Judgment Day, that's not in Jahannam, that's in the grave. That begins in the grave. And that's not so bad. Because what's going to happen later, that's when the really bad stuff happens. فَلَا صَدَّقَ وَلَا صَلَّى وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. No. On the other hand, he considered all of this a lie. And he turned away. He didn't care. And by the way, صَدَّقَ, he thought it was the truth. He did not think it was the truth. Rather, the opposite, كَذَّبَ, he thought it was a lie. The second thing was, وَلَا صَلَّى, he didn't pray. What's the opposite of that? وَتَوَلَّى, he turned away. So turned away from what? Turned away from what? The prayer. The prayer. Guys, we can talk about this, and I don't know what's in your heart. I don't know what's in your mind. Nobody knows except Allah. Salat is beginning. The adhan is given. Salat is beginning. Some of you are playing a game of ping pong. Some of you are sitting chatting or whatever. And you know Salat is beginning. Then you say, time to go home. I don't want to pray. I just want to go. I just came here because my mom dragged me here or whatever. You know what? It's being recorded that you were supposed to pray and you didn't. And not because you couldn't, or your parents said, let's go, we don't have time, or whatever. You didn't want to. You just didn't want to. You didn't want to. It wasn't worth it to you. Remember I keep saying, what are you going to do? You have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is skipping the prayer worth it? And is praying worth it? Is a snake bite enough of a cost? And the gifts you get for praying. You know. فَلَا صَدَّقَ وَلَا صَلَّى وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى ثُمَّ ذَهَبَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ يَتَمَطَّى. Then he goes back to his family full of hope, and he's just showing off. It's like, it's all good. Nothing's off, nothing's wrong. أَوْلَى لَكَ فَأَوْلَى ثُمَّ أَوْلَى لَكَ فَأَوْلَى. Curse you, then curse you again. Curse you, then curse you again. 4 times. May the worst thing happen to you. Then again may it happen to you. Then again may it happen to you. Then again may it happen to you. How many times? 4 times. The first time at the moment of death. At the moment of death. When the angel's yanking the soul. The second time inside the grave. The third time on the day of judgment. The 4th time in hellfire. 4 times. أَوْلَى لَكَ فَأَوْلَى ثُمَّ أَوْلَى لَكَ فَأَوْلَى أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَنْ يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. Listen to this carefully, folks. Did the person think, did the human being think that he's just going to be left free to do whatever he wants without a purpose? You could just do whatever. Suda. أَلَمْ يَكُنْ نُطْفَةً مِّن مَّنِيٍّ يُمْنَى. Wasn't he a piece of fluid that just flows? We were created from sperm, a dirty fluid that's considered disgusting. Isn't that where you came from? Who do you think you are? You can live however you want. Know your place, Allah is saying. ثُمَّ كَانَ عَلَقَةً فَخَلَقَ فَسَوَّى. Then he turned you into like a piece of flesh hanging from the belly of your mother. Inside the belly of your mother, there was a piece of flesh hanging there. That's what you were. Then he molded you into a baby. And then he turned you into a human being. Who do you think you are? You're just a piece of fluid to me, a dirty fluid. You're just this little thing. And look at what I turned you into. أَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ بِقَادِرٍ فَجَعَلَ مِنْهُ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى. Then he took that piece of fluid and that piece of flesh, turned it into a human being, and he made both spouses. He made the pairs, boys and girls from it. الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى. You don't think that one The one who did all of that, بِقَادِرٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ يُحْيِيَ الْمَوْتَى. You don't think the one who made you the first time and made you from nothing, made you from that, is able to bring life back to the dead? You doubt that? You go ahead and doubt it then. You think you created yourself? You think you formed your hands? You think you formed your eyes? Your mind? You think you brought you out of your mom alive? How many babies come out of their mother dead? Who brought you out of your mom alive? You think you kept yourself alive all these years? And then you doubt that once you die, I can't bring you back? On this last note, just listen to something and we'll conclude. If you have to build something for the first time, harder or easier? If you have to build the same thing a second time, harder or easier? Allah created us the first time. That's why we're here. And then people think it's way too hard for Allah to create us a second time. Allah says, if anything, it would have been harder the first time. You think I can't create you again? I can't put you back together? أَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ بِقَادِرٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ يُحْيِيَ الْمَوْتَى. This is one of the last evidences why we believe in Akhirah. Because if we believe in a God who can give life, why can't we believe in a God who gives life again? If He created the first time, He can create the second time. It's easier the second time around. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ. That's easy for Allah to do. Easy. What's human experience? When you do something, when you make something over and over again, my mom makes rotis over and over again. She's amazing at rotis. She can make it ask me to make a roti, it'll look like a map of some country. I can't tell you which one. It won't be round though. I don't know what the science behind making a roti round is, because I've tried, and it comes out like the map of Pakistan or Texas or Louisiana or, it looks like something. One of those islands. But I've tried before. But you ask mom to make a roti, what does she do? It's like this perfect circle. And I take a ruler to it and it's got the perfect diameter. Because she's done it what? Over and over again. She's done it over and over again. Allah has created over and over again. He can recreate over and over again. It's nothing for Him. It's nothing for Him. It's just a weakness of our minds. So I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal gives us real conviction, not only in our head, but practically. This was the surah about what's practically going to change in you. Practically, are you going to pray or not? Practically, are you going to be concerned or not? Now, I could have chosen a passage about Jannah. I chose not to. I purposely chose not to. I wanted to start with Indar. Personally, I feel like we ignore this side way too much nowadays. The Quran is not overwhelmed with punishment, but it does mention punishment. We shouldn't ignore it. And I know it's not a good feeling to hear about these things, but that bad feeling is good for you. It's therapeutic. You need it. I need it. You and I need it. So this is why I chose this passage.